Welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné, and here are the top stories from across the continent. Anger, grief, and unanswered questions in Senegal. A day after a student protest turned deadly in Dakar, authorities shut down university residences following clashes with police that left a medical student dead. In Sudan, deadly drone strikes are intensifying. More than 90 civilians have been killed in Kordofan in just 2 weeks, with health facilities and 8 trucks among the targets. Childbirth can be a matter of survival in some parts of Uganda. As hospitals fail and fees rise, expectant mothers are forced to seek care wherever they can find it. Senegalese authorities have ordered the closure of student residences at Dakar's main university, a day after a medical student was killed during clashes with police. Students at Cheikh Anta Diop University have been protesting over unpaid stipends. Tensions boiled over on Monday when security forces entered the campus. Caitlin Kelly tells the story.
An unexpected goodbye to university life as students decide to leave Cheikh Anta Diop University, a day after the protests and violent police repression claimed the life of Abdoulaye Ba, a second-year dentistry student. At Senegal's largest university, home to nearly 80,000 students, confusion and disbelief remains.
I saw one of my friends get brutally beaten by security forces with my own eyes. It's unfair.
We gave all our strength to help them come to power. Now that they're in power, the authorities have no right to torture us. They have no right to kill us.
The death of Abdoulaye Ba has caused nationwide outrage and mourning. Many Senegalese are questioning why security forces were allowed to enter the university campus to quash the student protests. The government has announced an investigation to uncover the truth behind this tragedy.
We need to be clear. On the ground, there have been acts of violence on both sides and acts committed by the defense and security forces. As the highest authority, these are acts I cannot approve of.
4 months now, students at Cheikh Anta Diop University have been at odds with the Ministry of Higher Education over unpaid financial aid, with some students missing out on scholarship fees for months. The political opposition strongly criticise what it calls the government's inaction.
The violence used against students, whose only crime is demanding the payment of their grants so they can study under minimally acceptable conditions, is unforgivable.
Here in Dakar, the campus is calm, but the anger is still palpable as students look to their government for answers.
In Sudan, over 90 civilians have been killed and many more injured in a Kordofan region in the past 2 weeks. Deadly drone attacks have intensified, and the World Health Organization says last week 31 people were killed in 3 separate strikes on health facilities. 6 aid trucks were also targeted. The RSF has denied responsibility for the strikes. Eliza Herbert has the latest.
Sudan's Kordofan region has not been immune to drone strikes during the country's nearly 3-year civil war. But a new wave of fatal attacks is stirring mounting concerns. The UN has warned both the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces have used advanced drone weaponry during the last 2 weeks, and that civilians in the region are at increasing risk of suffering the same intensity of human rights abuses that were committed in Al-Fasher.
Drone strikes by both sides continue, resulting in dozens of civilian deaths and injuries. Civilians are at risk of summary executions, sexual violence, arbitrary detention, and family separation.
The UN Human Rights Chief also said he had visited Al-Fasher since last October, when the Rapid Support Forces unleashed a wave of deadly violence. He said first-hand accounts described mass killings, summary executions, rapes, sexual violence and torture, and were consistent with the International Criminal Court's assessment that both war crimes and crimes against humanity took place.
Threat was clear.
Volker Turk claimed his office sounded the alarm for more than a year about the risk of mass atrocities in the besieged city. But rights groups on the ground felt not enough was done.
Everybody knew what was happening at that time, 500 days of siege, and everybody knew how it would end. I'm sorry, the international community didn't do anything for all these civilian people.
The situation in Sudan has been described as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. And on at least one thing, both the UN and rights groups agree. It looks set to get worse unless the international community steps in.
Kenya's foreign minister is set to travel to Moscow next month after condemning recruiters who misled Kenyans into working in Russia, only to find themselves sent to the front lines in Ukraine. Reports suggest that around 200 Kenyans have been deployed to fight, but some say this number is likely underestimated. The minister will also seek the release of Kenyan prisoners of war in Ukraine and check on those hospitalized. Over the past 2 months, more than 30 Kenyans have been evacuated from Russia. The UN is pushing for security guarantees from fighting factions in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo to access a key airport for ceasefire monitoring. Ongoing clashes with the M23 continue despite a peace agreement with Rwanda. The UN mission plans to deploy in Uvira, where the rebel group has recently disengaged. Aid workers are also calling for Goma Airport to reopen, which has been closed since it fell to M23 in January 2025. Deputy Secretary General Jean-Pierre Lacroix emphasized the need for aerial reconnaissance and personnel on the ground.
The condition is that we have security guarantees from all actors on the ground, that there is no risk, that we do not send our helicopters with our personnel with the risk of interference, as it's happened in the past, the risk of drones in the immediate vicinity of our helicopters, and so on.
In northern Nigeria's Katsina state, several local villages have attempted to negotiate peace deals directly with armed groups, but these agreements remain fragile and have so far failed to quell ongoing violence. Laurent Bersecher explains.
When their leaders struck a peace deal with local gunmen in September, residents of Nigeria's Duma village thought they could finally live in peace. But 6 months later, the fragile truce was brutally shattered when the same gang raided the village, killing dozens of people.
We are tired of this violence. They have been terrorizing our community, denying us access to our farmland. We didn't harm them. We didn't do anything to them.
Frustrated by rampant violence and the perceived inaction of authorities, community leaders in northern Nigeria have begun to take matters into their own hands. In recent years, dozens of villages have attempted to negotiate directly with bandit groups, with no government backup. But without any real security guarantees, experts warn it's only a matter of time before such agreements collapse.
You cannot have a peace deal if the criminal is still in possession of the weapons that he can use to kill people. So it's a mistake in the first place to enter into such peace deals without disarmament and demobilization.
Others argue the approach is counterproductive and could even lead to more attacks by bandit groups hoping for a payout.
It doesn't remove the ability to attack them, and then it also makes them stop attacking a particular community and they can start to attack another community. And if that community starts to pay, they try to attack another community. So it's like encouraging, rewarding bad behavior.
Nigeria's defense minister last month also warned against striking such deals, saying they could undermine national security efforts.
Now, is Emerson Mnangagwa moving to extend his grip on power? Zimbabwe's cabinet has approved proposed constitutional changes that could keep the president in office until 2030. The amendments would extend the presidential term from 5 to 7 years and transfer the power to elect the head of state from voters to parliament. The move follows plans by the ruling ZANU-PF party to retain the 83-year-old leader beyond the end of his current term in 2028. The proposals still need to be presented to parliament. In Uganda, authorities pledged to increase investment in the health sector. But for many women, especially those with limited means, the reality on the ground tells a different story. High fees at private clinics and chronic dysfunction in public hospitals are pushing families out of the healthcare system, making childbirth a high-risk journey for the most vulnerable. In the slums of the capital, expectant mothers are now turning to alternative facilities to find free and dignified care.
Prenatal consultation for Immaculate. The Amani Family Center takes a uniquely personal approach to healthcare.
In other facilities, I would say it's the money. You have the money, I'll give you the care. And the care that I was taught in medical books. But Amani, it's the care I would want to be given if I were you. Baby's coming around end of May.
Free care and someone who listens. For many women in this community, it is a first.
At other local facilities, I have been judged by the way I am dressed. They said I smell and didn't give me attention. But at Amani, nobody judged me. They took care of me. Even if you are not pregnant, they still care for you.
Judgment, humiliation, experiences like these sometimes push women away from the healthcare system. It was from this reality that the center was born.
You stay with your husband?
Yes.
He's treating you well?
Unless we know the community and we know that woman in particular, then we're doing that woman an injustice. Because this woman's complications will be very different from this woman. And that's where this relationship that the midwives here have with the women, they come and they tell us, were they raped? They come and they tell us, is their husband beating them?
Knowing the woman and the realities they live in, an approach that remains rare. Ugandan authorities, meanwhile, say they are investing to improve care for all expectant mothers.
We've been able, in the last 5 years, to construct more and functionize more than 500 healthcare facilities and improve the quality of care, train our health workforce, and also increase on the numbers slightly.
Over the past 5 years, maternal mortality has indeed fallen by 44% nationwide. But for the most vulnerable women, it is access to dignity that remains a challenge.
In the Central African Republic, the government's increase in fuel prices in 2023 continues to profoundly affect the daily lives of citizens. In Bangui and several other major cities, transport fares have skyrocketed, prompting many commuters to turn to motorcycle taxis as a more affordable option. Meanwhile, traditional taxis and buses are finding it increasingly difficult to remain operational.
In Bangui, higher fuel prices have reshaped the way people get around. During rush hour in the city centre, taxis wait for passengers, often for long stretches.
Before, our daily takings were high and fuel prices were low. Today, it's the opposite. With fuel prices going up, drivers are losing out.
As fares rise due to regional instability and a supply chain monopoly, many commuters are opting for motorcycle taxis, faster and above all cheaper.
I used to be a taxi driver, but since taxis no longer operate well today, I decided to switch by buying a motorbike. With just 5,000 francs worth of fuel, I can earn up to 20,000 francs a day.
This shift is raising concerns among transport unions. The Secretary General of the Taxi and Bus Union is calling for talks with the authorities.
Taxis and buses are gradually disappearing, and one day they won't exist anymore. We want to approach the relevant ministers to request collective negotiations and find a solution to the problem of fuel prices that will allow drivers to regain some breathing space.
The Central African Republic is among the countries with the highest petrol prices. At the pump, a litre now costs almost €2, a burden that continues to weaken the urban transport sector.
And that's it from us, and we leave you with a bit of music. The 6th edition of the International Festival of Saharan Cultures kicked off this weekend in Amjaras in northeastern Chad. The cultural event showcases traditional arts from the region, including Mauritanian poetry, trying singing from Niger, but also Zagawa dances from Eastern Chad. Have a look.